We got a story here on another world leader taking a shot at Russian President Vladimir Putin. This follows Joe Biden's disastrous ABC interview with George Stephanopoulos, where he called Russian President Vladimir Putin a killer. And now we have the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau lashing out at Putin as well. He doesn't go as far as calling the Russian president a killer, because that would just be senile, crazy, and stupid. But he does take some cheap pot shots at the Russian president, and it doesn't surprise me coming from Trudeau that he would take these cheap shots at the Russian president. I doubt that Trudeau would be man enough to say this face to face to the Russian president. But it's also kind of cheap that Trudeau followed up Biden's interview by doing pretty much more of the same, but a watered down version. So this was a really cheap copy of the Biden ABC interview, and it was a watered down, cheap copy at that. But what can you expect from Justin Trudeau? Clown world, guys, clown world. But he didn't need to do this. I don't know why he did it. He didn't need to do this. Maybe he was ordered to say these things about Russia and about Vladimir Putin. But it doesn't surprise me either, given that he has people like Freeland in his party and in his administration, and Freeland is a terrible warmonger with an interesting family history, to say the least. So here is the title from RT. It says, Russian President Putin has done terrible things and doesn't care what Western world thinks of him, says Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau. Yeah, he doesn't care what the Western world thinks of him because he's not president of the Western world, Justin Trudeau. He's president of Russia. And Justin Trudeau, you should not care what the world thinks of you either. You should care what Canadians think of you, because you're the Prime Minister of Canada. That's your job. So just to make it clear, Justin Trudeau, for some reason, thinks in true globalist fashion that the globe needs to like him and needs to think favorably, all the Davos crowd and all the Bilderberg crowd. That's not your job. Your job is to take care of Canada and to take care of Canadians, which is why I agree. Putin probably doesn't care what the globalists think of him. Does it mean that he wants to antagonize people? Does it mean that he should not be diplomatic? Does it mean that he should do terrible things on the world stage? No. But he shouldn't sit there, sit on pins and needles and say, oh my God, I wonder what Ursula von der Leyen thinks of me. Or I wonder what Joe Biden is thinking of me. No. Or what Klaus Schwab thinks of me. No, he should worry about what his voters and what his people think of him. Anyway, here is what the article says. Russian President Vladimir Putin is not particularly interested in the West's opinion of him. That's according to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who noted on Wednesday that Putin says what he wants when he wants. Like he's supposed to say stuff that he doesn't want, like what you do, Justin Trudeau. He's supposed to say things he doesn't want to say. I don't understand Trudeau's thinking there, but I guess Trudeau is saying that Putin should read from a script, much like what he does. Trudeau was speaking to the Sirius XM internet radio station on the same day that Canada's foreign ministry announced it would be sanctioning 9 Russian officials for gross and systemic violations of human rights in Russia. That's rich. Okay. Look, Russia doesn't care about the sanctions, by the way, at this point in time. In particular, they were dished out as a punishment for the alleged poisoning of opposition figure Alexei Navalny. Yes, the alleged poisoning of Alexei Navalny. The Russians who tried to poison Skripal, allegedly, and failed, and they tried to poison Alexei Navalny and failed, and they poisoned Alexei Navalny in Russia, then gave him treatment at a Russian hospital, then gave him permission to fly to Germany so he could seek further treatment. The Russians are the worst poisoners in the history of the world. Not to mention that if Trudeau even got a whiff of Alexei Navalny's past videos where he goes off the handle on people from the Caucasus, let's just leave it at that. Guys, I've done videos of Navalny's past videos. His very, very questionable videos on people from the Caucasus. Trudeau and his woke SJW administration would be just completely shocked that they're supporting Alexei Navalny. They would be shocked. The stuff that Alexei Navalny, if he were to say the things that he said in Russia, in Canada, if he was to put out the videos that he's put out in Russia, in Canada, I mean, Trudeau would probably just pass out. I mean, he would be absolutely stunned. So I'll put a link for those videos, for that video that I did on the type of person Navalny is and the videos he's put out in the past, anti-migration, anti-immigration, very racist towards people in the Caucasus. I'll put a link to that up here, somewhere up there, so you guys can take a look. But needless to say, if Justin Trudeau knew what he was talking about, being the woke Trudeau that he is, being the woke Justin Trudeau that he is, he would not be supporting Navalny because it would just go against the entire woke ideology. So here is what he said. Quote, he's not particularly interested in what the Western world and Canada thinks of him, Trudeau said, as quoted by the AFP. He will look at you and say whatever is convenient to him at any given moment. He is not, in other words, a scripted marionette, a scripted puppet. Trudeau, is that what you're saying? The Canadian Prime Minister was also asked about a recent comment from U.S. President Joe Biden. Last week, the American leader was asked by ABC anchor George Stephanopoulos whether he believes that the Russian leader is, quote, a killer. I do, he replied. Quote, I'm sure Putin is responsible for all sorts of terrible things because his behavior continues to demonstrate that, Trudeau said, without going so far to call the president a killer. As examples of terrible things, he mentioned the situation in Crimea, cyber attacks, and attempts to destabilize our democracies. Cyber attacks, in what way? Proof. Crimea voted to ascend into the Russian Federation after the US pushed a coup d'etat, and the EU, and I'm sure Canada, pushed a coup d'etat on the country in 2014 after a failed coup d'etat, actually a successful coup d'etat, but a failed coup d'etat in the sense that you got Ukraine to break up, you created a civil war, you pushed Crimea to ascend into the Russian Federation. Yeah, after that event, the Crimean people have a right to self-determination, don't they? I would imagine that Justin Trudeau, as this great human rights champion, you would agree that the people have a right to self-determination, especially when their government was violently overthrown without their vote and without their representation by Canada, the United States, and the European Union. Anyway, I wonder if the interviewer gave him any pushback on that. I doubt it. But he mentioned cyber attacks. What cyber attacks and attempts to destabilize our democracies? Okay, yes, Russians with $4,000 spending in Facebook destabilize democracies. We get it. Okay. The Russians are the worst poisoners. Putin is the worst poisoner in the history of the world. But boy, can he get you a bang for your buck when it comes to Facebook advertising. I mean, this is a president that with $4,000 in Facebook ads can completely overturn the US election. I mean, boy, is that something. So terrible poisoners, incredible social media marketers. Quote, I certainly know he's not someone who is supportive or a friend of Canada or Canadians in any way, shape, or form, he concluded. And we have to very much be wide-eyed and clear-eyed about how we approach relations with Russia. He's not a friend of Russia's. Not a friend of Canada's. Why? When has Vladimir Putin said anything bad about Canada? And have you engaged with Putin? Have you looked to work with Putin, Trudeau? Or does that go against what your globalist masters tell you to do? In other words, do they order you not to engage with Russia? Does Freeland order you not to engage with Russia? So, I mean, a statement like that is useless because I don't think Trudeau has ever made any overtures towards Russia to work with them on various issues because he's been ordered not to. On Thursday morning, Canadian Foreign Minister Marc Garneau accused the Russian leadership of repeatedly showing its unwillingness to respect the basic human rights, the basic rights of its people, noting that Ottawa would continue to increase pressure in Moscow to release Navalny and his supporters who have been unlawfully detained. No, they have not been unlawfully detained. Navalny, I know specifically for Navalny, he broke probation multiple times. And according to Russian law, he got his sentence. I don't know what else to say. I mean, the guy broke the law multiple times. And that's the law. So, the whole unlawfully detained thing, or, he's been unlawfully imprisoned. Navalny actually has skated through doing all these shenanigans in Russia, and he skated through them without as much as a slap on the wrist on multiple occasions. He's actually been treated with kid gloves, to be quite honest, on multiple times, considering that Navalny openly looks to overthrow the government, to organize protests and organize violent protests at that many times. And the fact that he's openly working with hostile governments against the well-being of the country. So, I mean, the whole thing is just ridiculous. The whole thing's ridiculous. He broke the law. He was warned many times not to break the law. He broke the law. He flew back to Russia on his own accord, and he got sentenced. The reason he flew back to Russia was because, I think, once again, he was ordered to fly back to Russia by his handlers in order to provoke this type of human rights thing that Marc Garneau is talking about and Justin Trudeau are talking about. Once again, if they knew Navalny's past and the things that he has said in the past, they would be stunned. But of course, no one's going to bring that to their attention. So Canada's sanctions follow in the footsteps of similar measures taken by the EU and the US in response. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov revealed that Russia would react accordingly. Yeah. In other words, Russia doesn't care about these sanctions. Russia has checked out. They're completely now aligned with China, and they're making business with other countries. They're looking at Africa, they're looking at the Middle East, they're looking at Asia, and that's that. They've checked out of the Western system. All right, guys, that's the video. That's Trudeau, for some reason, deciding to make his beef with Russia and with Putin public, even though Russia has not said anything about Trudeau or Canada that I can remember. But that's diplomacy a la Justin Trudeau. All right, guys, go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch, pick up a magic mug right here. How about this channel, which has been completely demonetized? Go to Alexander's channel, links down below. Go to the Duran's channel, links down below. Take care.